Hi, and welcome to the Ask Dr. Angela show with everyone's favorite OBGYN, Dr. Angela Jones. Have you ever been just too embarrassed or shy to ask your own doctor a question about your, private stuff? Well, you have come to the right place to get straight answers. Feel free to ask Dr. Angela anything women's health related. OBGYN, she keeps it real. Pregnancy, she knows what you're expecting. Whole body health, just ask. Dr. Angela has you covered, girl. And now here is Dr. Angela.
What's good, people? This is Dr. Angela, everyone's self-proclaimed favorite OBGYN, and I would like to personally welcome you to episode 92 of the Ask Dr. Angela podcast. You ever have one of those weeks when it's just like the longest week of your life? I had one of those weeks this week. My call was just awful. It was the first time in a long time that I was actually at the hospital for 24 hours. I did not get to go home. And then when I did come home the next morning, my entire household was sick. So I left germs at the hospital only to come home to germs in my own house. And somehow I've managed to not come down with any of the cooties that infected both my wife and my daughter. Thank goodness for that. Because I've got way too much stuff going on to be under the weather. I mean, who has time for that? But anyway, let's jump right into today's question. Oral contraceptive pills. Aside from contraception, what else are they good for? That's a really good question. And it's a question that I find myself constantly addressing with moms that are nervous about their daughters going on the birth control pill because they somehow feel that by allowing their daughters to start the birth control pill that they're giving the green light to start having sex. That's so not the case in many instances. So for all those moms that are worried about, oh my gosh, my daughter's on the pill, she's going to start having sex now, this is what you need to know. First of all, birth control pills, aside from contraception, have many other indications for use. For example, being on a birth control pill helps to make periods regular, makes periods lighter. Birth control pills make periods shorter, less painful, and an added bonus or benefit of being on the pill, if you happen to have terrible skin, is oftentimes it's used to treat acne. I see a lot of young folks whose dermatologists have asked them to see me so that they can start birth control as part of their acne treating regimen. So for all of my moms out there that are chomping at the bit because they think that starting their daughters on the birth control pill is not a good idea, I just gave you a lot of reasons why it might be a good idea. I mean, who wants an unpredictable period? There's nothing more embarrassing than being in class and all of a sudden, boom, you got your period. Or what about those cases where, all the ibuprofen, Aleve, Tylenol, Motrin, or whatever it is that you take, what if none of that helps with your period pain? Or what do you do when you're at school and you end up having to go home because you've bled through your clothes? And while I do recognize that some of these examples are extreme, these are really a lot of the issues that I address with my young patients when I initially start them on birth control. It has nothing to do with wanting to become sexually active, but everything to do with addressing these other issues. And for the record, when I see these young patients, and when I see any of my young patients, even my patients that are in college, I always preach continued abstinence if you're not sexually active. And I'm all about promoting self-awareness, self-esteem, attaining goals, and making sure that folks are hanging out with the right crowd at school, because I do believe that association leads to assimilation. So there are many other things aside from giving the green light when someone starts on birth control. Moms, I'm hoping that this podcast has shed some light on the numerous other reasons that we prescribe birth control pills. Thank you so much for tuning into today's podcast. If you have a topic or a question that you would like featured on the podcast, please feel free to submit it at www.askdrangela.com. That's ASKDRANGELA.com. Click on the microphone on the right-hand side of the page and do what you do. You can also direct message me on Twitter at Dr. Angela OBGYN, or you can direct message me on Facebook. Ask Dr. That's Dr. Angela, Angela. If we happen to use your question on the podcast, someone from my team will reach out to you and we'll send you one of our bomb-ass t-shirts. In closing, I'd like to leave you with this thought by Julia Sorrell. If you're never scared or embarrassed or hurt, it means you never take any chances. I guess I must take a lot of chances. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Ask Dr. Angela podcast. Until next time, look better, feel better, be better. Looking forward to reconnecting on episode 93.
Thank you for listening to the Ask Dr. Angela podcast. For more information on women's health and the show notes for this episode, please visit Dr. Angela at www.askdrangela.com. While you're there, don't forget to leave your own message for Dr. Angela. See you soon! All of the information provided and discussed in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not take the place of consulting a physician. This podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases or illnesses and does not and should not replace treatment for a medical professional. Listening to and participating in this podcast does not create a doctor-patient relationship between you and Dr. Angela Jones. If you need medical advice or assistance, you should consult a physician. Listening to and participating in this podcast is subject to the terms and conditions posted at drangela.com/terms.